Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's journey through Torah. This week, we are in Parshat Terumah, which means to elevate or to lift up of an offering. One of the things we find here is that we are now turning our focus, if you will, from them coming out of Mitzrayim, coming out of Egypt, and now they're at the mountain, and Yahweh is telling Israel, I want you to build a place for me to dwell. Now, there's a lot that can be said here. People have spent their lifetime studying things like the Tabernacle or the temple and just everything related to it. But the underlying thing of it all is that Yahweh said, I want you to build a place where I can dwell among you. And what I want to show you in this week's portion is that it's always been about relationship from the very beginning of everything. When Yahweh created Adam, he wanted to dwell with him in the garden. He wanted to have this relationship. Yahweh wants to dwell with you and not just like be your neighbor. He's dwelling in you. His presence is in you. And so we have this relationship that just surpasses everything else and in this world and everything we can truly comprehend and understand. But this is what Yahweh's desired from the beginning. And so he says, build me a place that I may dwell literally within you. And guys, what did Yeshua come for? He says that he wants to live in us. He wants to dwell within us and to have the presence of Yahweh, right? We even use the terminology, Yeshua in my heart, right? That's the idea, is that he lives in you. It's not I that live, but it's the Messiah who lives in me, through me. Okay, so what I want to show you in this week is things related to that. As we study the Tabernacle during the rest of the book of Shemot, I want us to really keep our focus on why. Why are these things being shown? And ultimately, like I said, it's because Yahweh says, I want you to prepare a place for me to dwell. And that shows us our lives. Yahweh is showing us in a physical form what it means for him to dwell within us. We are also told that Yahweh showed Moshe the tabernacle in the heavenlies. And he said, basically, copy it. Make the copies. There is a tabernacle that is not made by human hands. He showed him the tabernacle. He showed him all the implements. He showed him the ark and the menorah and all of these things and said, make them according to the pattern. In other words, copy it. And so you're literally, as you're making the tabernacle, you are making on earth as it is in heaven. And all of this is a picture of us preparing us as a tabernacle for Yahweh to dwell. So as we go through these things, I want us to not lose sight of the underlying foundation of it all, relationship. That Yahweh says, I want to dwell within you, not just among you, within you. And he wants us to prepare the place for him to dwell. In other words, your heart, your life. Within you, you are preparing your place, your body. You are preparing your place for Yahweh to dwell. In other words, you're making it hospitable for him. You are surrendering to him and laying it out in ways that he says is holy and is good and is useful, and keeping it clean, not to be defiled, and just being prepared to dwell with him in all of these things. Okay, so kind of laying it all up there. But as we go into these, I want us to understand it is your responsibility to prepare the place, and Yahweh says he will inhabit the place. Now, that doesn't mean that, if we just get everything right, then he will dwell with us. He said he will dwell with us immediately if we repent. Okay, so that's not the issue. It's not a matter of I have to do things to get my life right before God will live with me. No, that's not it. Okay, we repent. He says he is with us, and then he wants us to change to walk with him. But here we're seeing how things are being built from the beginning, and it's to show us the pattern. All right, things to strive for. He's showing us the pattern of these things and how are they representing all of this. All right. So as we prepare our hearts, we're getting rid of the things that don't line up with the pattern. Okay. We're getting rid of the things that defile. We're getting rid of all these things and preparing our place for him to dwell. All right? Okay, so the name of this parsha is Terumah, and Terumah means to lift up or elevate. This Terumah is sometimes translated like a heave offering. A Terumah is something that is lifted up and elevated. So the idea here is what's being elevated. Is it the gift or the offering or the offerer? And it's both. Okay, because the gift is from the offerer. The gift is represents the one who gave it, right? And as we give to Yahweh, you give what's important to you. If you want to give somebody something nice, you give something that you would consider nice, right? So you consider the value of what you give. And that's what's important. When Yahweh says, "Give me your heart," we give Him the value of everything, right? Everything we pour in. So as we give to Yahweh, He is elevating the people as they are elevating the tabernacle in their midst. Again, like I said, the idea is to show um, them among them. All right. Okay. So Truma is from the word room, which means to be raised up above something. Thereby, you could say it's lifted out of something, right? So it's separated for a higher purpose. And that's something that we see in here as all the offerings were given. Terumah, it was separated from something else. So it was raised up for a higher purpose. So it says they are to give, and whoever's heart compels him. The word for compels him is yidvenu, which is the word nadav, which is related to nataf. It's etymologically related to the word nataf, which means to flow out of something or to flow from within something. So as we are giving as from our heart, in other words, we are giving because it flows from within us. And so this was a free will offering. This was not something that had to be given from everyone. This was something where the need was put in front of the people, and He said, "This is what is to be given." And these were the needs. And it says, whoever's heart compels him were the ones to give. And so this is exactly what we see happening. So the etymology of the word Terumah, it's not just a contribution, but literally something that's raised up. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs says when we give, it's not just our contribution, but we who are raised up. So we survive by what we are given, just our work and everything else. We survive by what we are given, but we achieve dignity by what we give. We give to what we feel is worthwhile. We give to what we value. So, when you work and you do things, you receive your wage and you pay what you feel is of value, Excuse me. You have a house, you feel it's important to have a place to live, you pay for that. You need a car, you feel it's important to have a car, you pay for that. You pay for what you value. You pay for what you feel is important. Well, what Yahweh is telling the people of Israel is, I want you to prepare a place that I may dwell among you, literally within you. So I want you to prepare this. And so it was important to the people that they have this place that Yahweh dwell with them. I mean, when they leave Mount Sinai, the presence of Yahweh on Sinai, it's not like, okay, we can carry this mountain, nor are they supposed to stay at the mountain. They're supposed to keep going forward. And Yahweh wanted to make sure that the people understood He was with them. So He made the tabernacle, so I will go with them, right? So how do you give to Yahweh? I mean, how does one give to Elohim? Truly, I mean, directly. Can you? Well, no, not really. So how does one give to Yahweh? We give of ourselves. We give whatever is needed to the kingdom of Yahweh for the function of the kingdom of Yahweh and to His people. So we can show Yahweh is here with us. In other words, we give to His purposes. We give to the things that He says is important. And we give to what He calls us to. And another example is like the Leviim and the Kohanim, the priests and the Levites. They had no inheritance of land in Israel. Yahweh says that He was their inheritance, that He would take care of them. But how did He take care of them? By the people bringing their offerings into the tabernacle and later on the temple. And by the people giving to Yahweh, the priests received their portions from that. And that's how they were sustained, them and their families. And so because of that, the function of the tabernacle, the function of the priesthood, the function of all these things were able to continue, right? And the Pentateuch, Simpson Raphael Hirsch says, nothing is to be given directly to God, but the gifts of each individual are to be given to the community for divine purposes. This implies that it is not the individual but the community who has to erect the institutions for God's purposes. And it is not for single givers, but the community that these arrangements have to be established. So when we give to Yahweh, we're giving to one another. Because when we're uplifting the importance, the things that are important to Yahweh, our spiritual lives and our well-being and how we're supposed to dwell with one another, how we're supposed to live with one another, and worshiping together and all of these, well, as we're giving to that, then we're blessing Yahweh. And in turn, he's blessing us, right? So it's all working together. And then, so it says in Terumah, it says everyone is to give, but not just forcefully. It's everyone is to give whose heart compels him. So that's another question. Are we willing to give? Without coercion, without being guilt tripped into it. I mean, just here's a need. Okay, well, I don't have the means to fulfill the entirety of this need, but I'm going to give. And if all the people of Yahweh were to give to kingdom things, then we truly would live in a completely different society. Are we giving because we serve Yahweh wholeheartedly, right? Proverbs 22:9 says, blessed are those who are generous. 2 Corinthians 9:7 says that each should give according to what he has decided in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. 3 John 1:5-6 says, dear friend, you're being faithful to God when you care for the traveling teachers who pass through, even though they are strangers to you. They have told the church here of your loving friendship. Please continue in providing for such teachers in a manner that pleases God. Again, when we support kingdom things, we're supporting things that Yahweh told us to. And so it is an offering given to Yahweh when we are supporting kingdom-related things. So now back to the question. So who gave? Well, who was supposed to give? Exodus 25:1-2. Adonai spoke to Moshe, says, tell Bnei Israel to take up an offering for me. From anyone whose heart compels him, you are to take my offering. So again, Terumah is where given here, and V'yichichu li is to take for me, not necessarily give for me, to take for me. Yahweh had already given them what they need. See, that's another thing to consider. Yahweh had already given them what they need. When they came out of Mitzrayim, Yahweh said, before you leave, go and ask your neighbors for some gold and silver and some different things. And they gave them to them as they left. They said, here, just take these and just go. And so now the time comes when Yahweh says, I want you to build a tabernacle. These are the things you're going to need. So if the people were faithful and obedient to Yahweh as they left Mitzrayim, then they would have the things that they needed here to be able to give. But not one person, just one person was able to give it all. See, it was the community that was able to give to fulfill the need. And that's why he says, take for me, not necessarily give for me. Yahweh already gave it to us. So he wants us to take from what he has given us and give the portions of this back to him to build the tabernacle, to build the Mishkan. So Terumah is to elevate and to lift up. Tell the sons of Israel to lift up an offering for me, to take it and to do this. All right. So verse 2, from anyone whose heart compels him, you are to take my offering. Again, this is what we already seen here. Yidvenu levo, whose heart is generous. And that's where we're here. Whose heart compels him. In other words, whose heart is generous. So it's not just everyone. See, it was addressed to all the sons of Israel. Tell all the sons of Israel to take up an offering for me. But from anyone whose heart compels him. It's not a matter of Moshe is going to go door to door and say, okay, you're going to give this tax. That's not what was happening here. All right. This was for the people to give out of their heart to fulfill the need so they could have the tabernacle dwelling within them. And that's the question. We're all willing. See, Yahweh already, like I said, Yahweh had already given them what they need to do this. The question is, are they willing to take from what Yahweh had given them and provide this blessing of his presence among them to build this tabernacle? So going on down a little further, Exodus 35, verses 4 and 5. So Moshe says to all the congregation of the people of Israel, this is the thing Yahweh has commanded. Take from among you a contribution to Yahweh. Whoever is of generous heart, let him bring Yahweh's contribution. Then he goes on, he lists different things that are needed, right? So go down to Exodus 35, verses 20-22. So what happens? All the people of Israel depart from Moses. Moses puts the need in front of them. These are the things, and take up the contribution. So all the people went home, back to their tents, and then they kind of thought it over. And then what happens? All right. So then all the congregation of the people of Israel departed from the presence of Moses, and they came. So who are the they? Everyone whose heart stirred him, and everyone whose spirit moved him. It doesn't say everyone. It says everyone whose heart and spirit stirred him. Everyone whose heart was to do it. It's not going to be everyone's heart to do it. It's not going to be everyone's heart and spirit stirring to give to kingdom related things. That's just a fact. But is he doing it for you? See, and that's what's being addressed here. So they came, everyone whose heart stirred him, and everyone whose spirit moved him, and brought Yahweh's contribution to be used for the tent of meeting and for all its service and for the holy garments. So they came, again, they, both men and women, all who were of a willing heart, brought breeches, earrings, signet rings, armlets, all sorts of gold objects, every man dedicating an offering of gold to Yahweh. So why? So that they could build this Mishkan. Mishkan means a dwelling place, the word from the word shakan, okay? To dwell, the dwelling presence. So the question is, can an infinite Yahweh, an infinite Elohim, dwell in a finite space? The answer is yes. He is everywhere, okay? He's not confining himself to the Mishkan, but he is showing his presence in the Mishkan. See? He's dwelling there, but he is everywhere. To say that Yahweh cannot inhabit, to be in the most holy place, is to say that he cannot confine himself to a certain area. And to say that means he can't live in you. And guys, that was the plan, that he would live in you. Okay? That it would be his word, his life, his spirit dwelling and living in you and through you, right? Relationship. Complete one with Yahweh, right? So if we say, well, there's absolutely no way Yahweh could dwell in the tabernacle, what you're really saying is there's no way that he could dwell within his creation. And he can, right? He's proven it. Isaiah 66:1 says, thus says Adonai, heaven is my throne, the earth is my footstool. So where is the house you have built for me? Where is the place of my rest? So can Yahweh just inhabit just this house? No, but yet he can show his presence there. It's not like he's saying, I can't be anywhere else. Okay, that's not it. That's not what we're saying. Like there is no place big enough to contain Yahweh, but yet he has shown us of himself in the little pieces of things that we can understand here on earth. 1 Kings 8:27-30 says, so will God really dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the heaven of heavens cannot contain you. How much less this house that I have built? Nevertheless, see that? He's saying, nothing can contain you, Yahweh. However, he's acknowledging that Yahweh does things for our benefit. Okay? Verse 28, in 1 Kings 8:28. Nevertheless, turn to the prayer of your servant and to his supplication. Adonai, my God, listen to the cry and to the prayer which your servant prays before you this day. Let your eyes be open toward this house day and night, toward the place which you have said, my name shall be there, listening to the prayer which your servant shall pray toward this place. So listen to the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel, when they pray toward this place, here in heaven, your dwelling place. And when you hear, forgive. See that he's acknowledging that the temple, when he built this temple and when it was being dedicated, he was praying, he was acknowledging, Yahweh, we built this temple as a place for your glory, as a place for your presence, as a place for your people. But we're acknowledging that when the people are turning towards this temple, what they're really doing is praying to you in heaven. See that? So it's not just a matter of, we're not making the temple an idol. Okay? It's not like, oh, we have to pray to the temple. No, we're not praying to the temple. We're praying toward the temple, which is where Yahweh said his throne and a place where he would dwell would be. Okay? Even today, why do we face Jerusalem when we pray? It's not because we're making an idol out of Jerusalem. It's because things like this, when we turn toward this place, like these prayers that were given, Yahweh, hear your people, hear from heaven, and when you hear, forgive. So in other words, acknowledge your people when they're praying toward this place. And it's just an acknowledgement that there is a place on earth where Yahweh said his name would be and where his presence would dwell. And that's another acknowledgement as we acknowledge that he can dwell within you as well. So Yahweh desires to dwell within his people. And he also provided the place, now consider this, where all doubts of what was to be established would be extinguished. It's not just going to be a matter of, oh, well, Moses said this is what we have to do. Moses is at it again, right? No. there is a place that was established where the people would know Yahweh is there. Okay. And Moses is not making stuff up. Yahweh is giving words to Moshe. Moshe is sharing. This is a place of meeting with Moshe, Aaron, the Kohanim, to establish the view, the worldview of all Israel, how Israel is to approach the world, how Israel is to approach one another, how Israel is to dwell as a holy people, all of this, right? And ideally, the tabernacle in their midst would disprove the idea of God told me when he didn't say. Because if Yahweh said it to somebody, they can't go into the most holy place or into the holy place, right? So if it is God told me something, you have to be out there by the courtyards. There would be witnesses around to be able to tell, to say, yeah, he did. Okay. So the idea of having Yahweh's presence in our midst, again, is disproving ones who would claim Yahweh said when Yahweh didn't say. That's just one more thing in our lives. Okay. But again, as we're coming together in this, it's just providing a place of unity. As we have a place of unity, it's a place for us all to come together. We need that. We need places of focal points, different places where we can look toward as uniting factors. Otherwise, we won't have them. Okay. It'd be like sitting around saying, people need to get together. But if you don't provide a place for that to happen, it won't happen. See, so it's providing a place of unity, a focal point for the presence of Yahweh, and a focal point for the people of Israel. All of this working together. Okay. So the question again, when what happens is we give, we are preparing a place for Yahweh to dwell, and he dwells in the midst of our unity. When we are coming together, even Yeshua said where two or more are gathered, right? As we are coming together and united in Yahweh, not just arguing, bickering, complaining, but we come together to turn our focus to Yahweh, then it kind of dispels everything else. Isaiah 57:14 and 15 says, it shall be said, build up, prepare the way, remove every obstruction from my people's way. For thus says the one who is high and lifted up, who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place. And also, see this, and also with him who is of a contrite and lowly spirit, to revive the spirit of the lowly and to revive the heart of the contrite. See that? Yahweh dwells in the high and lofty place and with you. All right. And that was the idea from the beginning, to dwell in you. So where do we see other testimonies of Yahweh dwelling in you, right? Well, look at Romans 8:10 and 11. It says, but if Messiah is in you, and that's the idea, he is. If Messiah is in you, though the body is dead because of sin, yet the spirit is alive because of righteousness. And if the Ruach of the one who raised Yeshua from the dead dwells in you, the one who raised Messiah Yeshua from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his Ruach who dwells in you. What's the reiterating point? He dwells in you, right? 2 Corinthians 4:6 and 7 says, for God who said, let light shine out of darkness, is the one who has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Messiah. But we have this treasure in jars of clay, that's us, so that the surpassing greatness of the power may be from God and not of ourselves. Galatians 2:20 says, it is no longer I who live, but the Messiah lives in me. And the life I now live in the body, I live by trusting in Ben Elohim, the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up for me. Ephesians 3:17 says, so that the Messiah may dwell in your hearts through faith. I pray that you, being rooted and grounded in love. Colossians 1:27 says, God chose to make known to them this glorious mystery regarding the Gentiles, which is Messiah in you, the hope of glory. And John 14:16-18, Yeshua says, I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper so that he may be with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it does not behold him or know him. You know him because he abides with you and will be in you. I will not abandon you as orphans. I will come to you. See that? It is Yahweh, Yeshua, dwelling in you. So when it came time to build the Mishkan, what was the first piece that was given the instruction for? The first piece that was given here was the ark, right? The ark. The ark was the most holy of all the items in the Mishkan. All right. It was in the most holy place, and at the very core of the most holy place, there it was. So at the most holiest of the holiest on earth was the ark. In the ark was to be the 10 words, the word of Yahweh. And where did Yahweh dwell? He said, I will meet with you over top of the ark, what we call the mercy seat, but that's not really a seat. Okay. But that's what it's called here in English, the mercy seat. But it literally is a place where Yahweh said he will provide atonement. More on that in times to come. Bruce Wells, in the Zondervan Illustrated Bible Backgrounds Commentary, says the ark was the most holy of all the items in the tabernacle. It marked the location of the divine presence, which we see in Exodus 25:22. It is referred to numerous times of the Ark of the Testimony. Once the tablets were put inside, the tablets of testimony were put inside. It was called the Ark of Testimony. See that? And many references here in Exodus chapter 25, verse 22, chapter 26, verse 33 and 34, chapter 30, verse 6 and 26, chapter 31, verse 7 and 39. Chapter 31, verse 7. Chapter 39, verse 35, chapter 40, verse 3, and 5 and 21. So it is referred to as Udut, the Ark of Udut. Udut is testimony and is a synonym of Brit, covenant. And it should be understood to mean covenant. So what is to be placed within the ark then is most likely the written record, perhaps the tablets of stone in Exodus 24:12 of the covenant agreement that Yahweh has made with Israel. So again, the Ark of Testimony was the tablets of testimony put in the ark, and then it's called the Ark of Testimony, also called the Ark of the Covenant. See, because the covenant, the words of the covenant was put inside the ark. The covenant, right? And provided the words and the covenant there where Yahweh meets with us to provide atonement. All a picture of all this working together. So the first thing, the pattern for, so you could put it this way, the heart of the tabernacle was the ark. And then the first piece for the priesthood was the breastplate to cover the heart. Again, the connection there. So ark. The word for ark is aron. Aron, from the word ara, which means like a sense of gathering something together. Okay. The idea is not just the box, but what goes in it. Right? That's the difference here. The Ark of the Covenant was a place to mark a gathering together. It was to stand as a witness to what the people would gather to, which is what? The covenant, the word, the Torah, atonement, all of this, what the people would gather in together to. The difference of the boxes is function, because the word for ark and the word for coffin is the same word. No difference. It's the same word. The word for ark and the word for coffin. It's the same thing. So what's the difference? What goes in it? Life or death? And that's the idea. Life is going inside. And as that goes into you as well to provide life. So the ark represents the heart. So the word needs to be written where? On our heart, which Jeremiah 31:33 reiterates for us. This shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yahweh. I will put my Torah, literally et Torati. I will put my Aleph Tav Torah in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs states this: God instructs Moses in the making of the sanctuary and its appurtenances detail by detail. In each case, this is interesting, the verb is in the second person singular. Each time it's given, you shall cover, you shall make, you shall pour, you shall place, you shall bring. Each time it's written in the second person singular, but there is one exception. What is it? The ark. There's a verb in the third person plural. Ve'asu aron atzeh shittim. You shall make an ark of acacia wood. So it's written in the third person plural. They shall make. It says you, but why is it they shall make and not you? Why is it why the shift here from singular to plural? More on that very soon. And the idea here, so I'll kind of cut to the chase, but then we'll build up and you'll see why. The idea here is that it says you shall make, you shall make, you shall make. And then it says they shall make regarding all the people, because the core of the matter in the heart was a place of covenant, a place of atonement, which was for all people. Not just, I mean, and all these other things, it was you shall make, you shall make, you shall make. But it's not just, okay, Moses made. No. When it comes to the idea of atonement and the covenant and the ark and what all these things represent, is supposed to have a piece of all of us. We all have a right to come in and have that atonement to be made for us. Okay, Yahweh said that we all have a share in that. I guess it's a better way to put it other than right. We have a share in that. We all have a part to that. Exodus 25:17 and 18 says you are to make an atonement cover. See, it's often called mercy seat. No, an atonement cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide, and also make 2 cherubim of gold from hammered work at the 2 ends of the atonement cover. And Isaiah 37:16 says, Adonai Sabaoth, the God of Israel, who is enthroned upon the cherubim. You alone are God of all the kings of the earth. You have made the heaven and earth. See that? So on the atonement cover, you'd have 2 cherubim, 2 cherubim on the atonement cover. And why? Because this represents Yahweh being enthroned, Yahweh's presence, his throne room, all of this there. He is enthroned upon the cherubim. So again, he says, I will meet with you there. I will provide atonement for you there. And he says, I am there. Again, another picture of on earth as it is in heaven. Ezekiel 10:1 says, I looked and behold above the expanse over the heads of the cherubim, there appeared above them something like sapphire stone resembling a throne. Again, the picture given there. We have the cherubim and the Yahweh's throne there above the cherubim. Ezekiel 10:14, each one had 4 faces. The first face was the face of a cherub. The second, like an angel. The second was the face of a man. The third, the face of a lion. And the fourth, the face of an eagle. So in the Call of the Torah, Rabbi Eli Monk states this way. Ezekiel describes the cherubim as angels who partially resemble 4 symbols of strength and intelligence: man, ox, lion, and eagle. They are bearers of the throne of glory of God, which is formed by the heavenly chariot. In 2 Samuel 22:11, we see he rode upon the cherub and flew, and he was seen on the wings of the wind. 1 Chronicles 28:18 says, for the altar of incense with the weight of refined gold, and gold from the form of the chariot, the cherubim that spread out their wings, covering the ark of the covenant of Adonai. So again, by the cherubim being there, it's representing a place of Yahweh's presence, that he is dwelling right there in their midst and being enthroned, if you will, right there as well. The Aron, the ark, thus represents the seat of divinity within the earthly microcosm. The pedestal for this earthly throne is formed by the tablets of the law in the Aron, and the cherubim which surround this throne with outstretched wings recall the kingdom of angels in heaven, where God sits enthroned just as he hovers over the kingdom of man. So again, where will Yahweh dwell? He says over the ark cover, what we call the mercy seat, literally just means the place of atonement, which is its function. So again, when we consider this was a place of where Yahweh dwells, representing his throne, as we come before him and come before his throne, instead of judgment coming before the king, he provides atonement. He provides mercy, which, yes, he provides judgment, but he provided atonement for us in the midst of that. So again, another picture of Yahweh giving us his kindness, his mercy, his grace, all of this as we come before him. And as we're coming before the ark, we're coming before his throne. Okay. And every person had a share to the ark, namely had a share to what was above the ark, the presence of Yahweh. All right. Exodus 25:21 and 22 says, you shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony that I give you. There I will meet with you. And from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim that are on the ark of the testimony, I will speak with you about all that I will give you in commandment for the people of Israel. So this, again, was a place of atonement. And Yahweh says, this is where I will speak with you. He will speak with us from a place of atonement where he meets us. It's an amazing picture, again, like I said, of his grace and his mercy coming to us. So the table of showbread was the first piece made for the holy place. So the very first piece made for the tabernacle was to talk about was the ark. And the table of showbread was the first piece made for the holy place, right? You have the court, the holy place, and the most holy place. So in the holy place, the table of showbread was the first piece that was made there, which again, showing provision for the people of Yahweh. Exodus 25:23 through 30 says, you shall make a table of shittim wood, and you shall set upon the table showbread for me always. So what's happening? 12 loaves every Shabbat, and the loaves were replaced every Shabbat. And We read from other sources that it was fresh every Shabbat. As they were taking the old loaves down and the priesthood, they ate them and they put the new loaves on. It says they were just as fresh as when they were put up there. Okay. Plus, they had been in the presence with the incense and just kind of soaking up the presence, and it was just an amazing thing. So the Levites were to partake of the 12 loaves. And interesting, these sources that we've seen have said that there are always enough and they were always satisfied. Can you imagine feeding the priests and the Levites from 12 loaves? It's a miracle. Feeding all these people with 12 loaves, and they all had what they needed. They were all satisfied, and they all got to eat. What does that remind you of? What does it make you think of? Yeshua feeding the multitude. Matthew 14:17. It says, they said to him, so we've heard 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Matthew 15:34. Yeshua says, how many loaves have you? And they said 7 and a few little fishes. So two different scenarios here. 5 loaves, 2 fishes, 7 loaves, a few fishes. What are these? 12. With 12 loaves, Yeshua fed the multitude. They all ate and they were satisfied. Again, Yeshua is saying he is the living bread which came down from heaven, right? So showing us another picture of he is our sustenance, he is our supply. And he is the one who gives us what we need, and he was the one who shows us how he meets us in a place of atonement, and it is he who wants to live in and through us, like he says the Father is living through him and dwelling through him, and the works that he does is not his own, but the Father is doing the works through him. All right. So again, the picture is you are a tabernacle. You are the presence for Yahweh to dwell. In Exodus 15:2, as after they crossed the sea, they burst forth in song, right? It says, Yah is my strength and my song, and he's become my salvation. This is my God, I will glorify him. My father's God, I will exalt him. The NASB says, this is my God, I will praise him. In the Chumash, it says, this is my God, I will build him a sanctuary. So what's the thought behind here? I will praise Yahweh by making my heart a sanctuary. All right? I will praise him by preparing me to dwell, that he can dwell in me. Exodus 25:8 says, have them make a sanctuary for me so that I may dwell among them. And Yahweh doesn't just say to build a sanctuary so he may dwell in it, but literally among them. The word there is betocham. Betocham doesn't just mean like your neighbor, okay? The word tavek is used there literally means to be placed in the very center of something. Just like you were to slice something open and place it in the center. That's what we're talking about here. So it's not just build a sanctuary so that he can dwell as your next door neighbor. Build a sanctuary so he can dwell in you. Again, he's showing us his desire to dwell within us. Leviticus 26:11 and 12, we see again, I will put my tabernacle among you. And that's again the same word used there as the word tavek. It says mishkani. So again, the tabernacle, my dwelling place, my tabernacle. Betochachem, again, that's word tavek. And so I will dwell within you, and I will not reject you, but I will walk among you. Again, the word used there is not just among, but within. I will walk within you and be your God, and you will be my people. And then it says, I will put my tabernacle, again, like I said, within you, and I will walk within you. So Yahweh said that he would meet with Aaron in the Holy of Holies. What we have here is a picture of an infinite God dwelling in a finite space. And we see in Hebrews 2:9, it says, we see Yeshua, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. So again, it's because of what Yeshua did for us that we are able to have him dwelling in us. Philippians 2:7 through 11 says, instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being when he appeared in human form. He humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross. Therefore, God elevated him to the place of highest honor and gave him the name above all other names, that at the name of Yeshua, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Yeshua HaMashiach is Lord, to the glory of God our Father. 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20 says, don't you know that your body is a temple of the Ruach HaKodesh who is in you, whom you have from God, and that you are not your own? For you were bought with a price, and therefore glorify God in your body. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. Therefore, power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly my weakness, so that the power of Messiah may dwell in me. Again, pictures of he dwells in you. Ephesians 3:17, so the Messiah may dwell in your hearts through faith. I pray you being rooted and grounded in love. Colossians 3:16, Let the word of Messiah dwell in you richly. James 4:5. Do you think in vain the scripture says he yearns jealously over the Spirit which he made to dwell in us? He desires to dwell in you. So our lives, we're building something. Okay, we are preparing something with our very life, with our very being, everything that we are. We are preparing something. Are we preparing a place for him to dwell? Peter says we're living stones. If we're living stones, are we just stones laying in a heap? Are we just stones laying around somewhere? Are we just a stone laying off to ourselves doing nothing? Or are we going to have stones put together in order, so according to the plan of Yahweh? So we build something. What can we build? A place for him to dwell. 1 Peter 2:5 says, you also as living stones are being built up as a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Messiah Yeshua. So again, if we're living stones, let's build something that glorifies the Father. Amen. And let's do so for his kingdom, that he may dwell and live within us, so we can show the presence of Yahweh to a world that needs him. Okay? That's all I got for you today, guys. I pray this has been a blessing to you. I pray this has encouraged you and challenged you a little bit too. That's the idea, that we're challenged to change, right? So if this has been a blessing to you, then please share it on whatever avenue you watch or listen. However you get these teachings, share them, okay? Because if it's blessed you, it's probably going to bless somebody else too. So help us in that. If it's blessed you, help share it. And if this has blessed you, then please consider making a donation to whatever avenue you watch or you listen, because that helps us to continue to make these, okay? That helps us to continue the time, the platforms, the equipment, everything that's needed. We only have it because you provide it. Okay, so if this has been a blessing to you, you want us to continue to do these, and please help us in doing so, and help consider giving a donation to help us keep these things moving. Okay, so with that, guys, be blessed, be a blessing, and shalom.